fact when we did a call for help. Kim, Julian, and Elena. Ileana. I always get that wrong. Serena. When the call for help first came out, what went through your mind at that exact moment?
I got the text at 7:30 in the morning from Gail, the staff room, and I was confused. Like, why am I getting a text from Gail? She's hiking. And then I thought, well, they wouldn't just text me. I can't be the only one that got this message. And I thought, well, I should probably do something with it. So the more I thought about it, the more I realized how urgent the response should be. And I started making phone calls and sending messages. I sent one to Julie immediately, and I sent one to Clark, and I sent one to you?
No,
you sent one to me.
Yeah, I posted it on the page. I came in at 7:38.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't even get your.
And then I immediately sent it to Julie and Warren's daughter, Holly.
And then I found out, my daughter called me.
Yeah.
This was like, Mom, your hiking group, they're in trouble. And I'm like, okay, so then
On the page is when we started getting responses. That's when Kim responded to. And so did.
Posted it and stuff right after I called or sent you a message and Holly, and then Holly called me. And then I posted it on the page, and that ended it. You took it.
I was already moving.
You got it going, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was moving fast. By the time I was on Dowling, you were going gas.
I was running to Warren's to get clothes for him. So that was and then clothes for everybody else. And I'm stuffing the pack and towels and sweatshirts, and wasn't sure what anybody would need. And all I can think about on it, for me, all I can think about is, his daughter, and I know how close they are, and it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen to him? And of course I was on adrenaline, and I was on a mission, and trying to grab enough clothes for everybody. And then I said this later, I don't know if I mentioned it to you later, but I didn't even realize how much I had packed, or how much I was going to carry in. So by the time I got to the Eagle River Nature Center, I was like, oh, I don't even know how much weight I have on my pack, because I just started stuffing things, and
So I made 2 pots of tea. I carried that the entire way before I left my house. I only have a small backpack. I don't own a large backpack, and I threw in as many pairs of socks as I could unpack out of boxes since I just moved, and the 4 or 5 shirts, whatever I could find, and then I just went. I called Clark first. And I just told him, I said, this has to happen. I am coming out there. I'm going to drop my dog off at your house. His son's going to watch my dog, my older dog. And then we would go from there. He'd already called the Eagle River Nature Center and talked to the ranger there, or I can't remember the gal's name. Anyway, to let them know that we were coming out. And he'd already arranged to have a 4-wheeler available for us. So by the time I got there, I had talked with Kim and Frederica, and you and your husband and Frederica were going to meet up. You were about an hour behind us, and I didn't know they'd gotten a hold of you. So
she called you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she called her.
Yeah, I didn't know that you guys had contacted each other, because at that point I was almost out of range. So we knew that you were coming, and we let the rangers know. And we got on the 4-wheeler. They gave us we got on the 4-wheeler, and we got the first 3 miles free of charge.
Right.
And I actually, Eliana went first, and then came back and picked me up, and I threw my 110-pound dog on my lap, and we all rode the 4-wheeler the first 3 miles. That was great.
It was.
It was even better on the way out. So at the point where we had to get off the 4-wheeler is at the yurt, and then we started walking, and yeah, we were walking fast.
Yeah.
And the trail started getting more difficult, and it started raining. It was just raining.
It was nonstop. It was nonstop. Yeah. And I felt terrible because as I'm walking in, because everything happened so quickly, I hopped out of bed, ran to get clothes, do all this, I packed everything in the backpack without it being in a garbage bag or some type of waterproof container. So as I'm packing this in, my thoughts are like, it's gonna be, here are your clothes. It's wet, it's not as wet, but, so that was my first thought, you know, but they worked with it. There was, yeah, they worked with it, so.
So we really slogged through some difficult trail conditions, water crossings, and it started getting more and more challenging the further we went. And I think that we went probably 3.5 miles or so, and it became more and more difficult for Eliana to keep up because she had a heavy pack, and it was getting heavier.
I fell a few times, and I was, you know, and you guys were a lot quicker than I was. And at one point, and I've shared this with Warren, but at one point I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm committed now. You know, there's no turning around. I'm going as far as I need to go to deliver this. I'm going to do it. But I did think that at one point I was like, okay, this was yeah, it's a challenging trail. And with the pack and slipping, yeah,
Was terrible.
it was pretty crazy.
Footing was terrible. I actually rolled down hill twice.
Yeah, that one time that startled me.
It was super fun. So by the time we were getting close to where Tony and Trina were camped, and Clark had a mileage plan for points along the trail so he could track where we were. And we knew we were getting close to the place where the base camp was. We went out of a clearing, and Eliana was behind us. She was having a hard time. I mean, you had like 50, 60 pounds on your back at that point.
No, it wasn't no, it wasn't at all that much weight. You guys were just quicker paced than I was. It was more, I think you guys had a faster gait than I have, and that distance was, and then Clark turned around at one point and asked us if we had any headlamps available or any headlamps on us. I'd completely forgotten my headlamps, so there was no headlamps. You didn't have any. He didn't have any. So his point was that, you know what, we need to quicken the pace because at this rate, we need to do about, we were doing like 3 miles an hour, maybe 2 miles an hour. We needed to do at least 3 miles an hour with the time frame, the light, the distance, in order to get back to the nature center without it being dark. So he suggested at that point, he was saying, and by then we'd reached the camp, and suggested that I should turn around because we happened to come across those two, the couple who met you guys at the, Matt and his wife at the crossing. So that was an opportunity for me to hike back with them.
And that was a good thing. She left some of her things for
left
Clark to
clothes.
carry, for Warren, and warm things. But he had a good point. We needed to keep the pace up. And at that point, it dawned on me just how long the hike was going to be.
At that point there was still like 10 miles?
No,
12 miles?
We were at
the base camp?
about 7 miles at that point.
To the river, okay.
And they were at mile 11 was where the crossing was. So when we first came out, we were on the trail. When we first came out to this clearing, we saw these two hikers. So it was Matt and his wife. And we grilled them, you know, who they talked to, who they knew. And I hadn't really looked around, and I looked around, there's Tony and Trina in their base camp. I'm like, oh, hi. Walked over, got some big hugs, because they were shocked to see us. And that was welcome. And we gathered our strength for a little bit and reassessed where we were at and determined how far we had to go, because we still didn't know if they had crossed the river or not. We were still trying to figure that out. And the reports that we were getting was that the trail was a shit show. It was like bad, really bad. And so we weren't sure if we should continue on or if they had made the decision to turn around and go back, having the trail conditions were actually better on the side of the river before they crossed. So we just had to continue on. At that point, we're sitting down at the fire, and I had a text from the set phone drop into my phone. Unexpectedly, I had no reception up to that point, and it was from Gail saying that she had crossed the river. And at that point, we knew where they were. So we were committed at that point. We had to go forward and try to meet them. And we knew what time they'd crossed the river. And so we were doing some quick math and trying to figure out how much distance they could travel and to shorten the distance between us. And we were hoping that they had a pace that they could have at least covered a mile, mile and a half, not knowing the trail conditions at that point. So we had 3 miles to go, Clark and I. Eliana went back with Matt. And boy, he set a hard pace. And my hip was out of joint, and so I'd been hiking this whole time with my SI joint out, and it was super fun. It was super fun. I kept up about 2 more miles, and I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't lift my leg over the obstacles. So I sat down and I waited, thinking that surely they were going to come across them soon. We were that close. And I waited and waited. I said, no, I'm getting cold because I was completely drenched. There was nothing dry on me any longer. Literally, the trail was in the middle of the river in some places. So I turned around and I hiked back to base camp by myself with my dog, and sat down and got warm. So, well, that's stretching the truth. I didn't get warm. I sat in front of the fire, and then we started getting communication from Tony. Got communication from Todd on their phone in the walkie-talkie system. So we knew that they met up with Clark and they were on their way back to us at base camp. And so that was a huge relief that everybody was okay, nobody was injured, nobody had hypothermia, and that they were on their way back to us, and monitored their progress as they went. And when they reached Icicle Creek, or were getting close to it, I walked out to help welcome them back. And as they crossed the creek, I saw Lacey, and I saw Amy, and y'all looked broken. You did. And I saw Todd, and I saw Christina, and I saw the baby. And you guys just looked beaten, really beaten. Like you weren't going to make it if you didn't have any encouragement. So I'm glad I was there. I gave y'all a big hug. I took the first people that crossed.
Okay, I don't know why it stopped. No, you're fine now. Go ahead.
And Christina and that's her. And in a very slow pace, because you guys, Amy had terrible blisters. I think Christina was carrying like 100 pounds in her pack and 50 on the front. I don't know. You guys just looked, it was very slow pace getting all the way back to camp, but we got you back to camp. And Clark came up with the rest of you, and everybody started shedding packs as delicately as they could, because some people had real bruises, and just painful to even watch you guys take your packs off. Shed socks, shed pants, shed shirts, and put on new, and everybody got some tea that I carried all that way.
That's so cool, you brought the tea. It didn't go to waste.
No, it didn't go to waste. And Anthony made some food, hot food, and everybody ate. Everybody drank something warm and sweet, and got a little bit of heat and some semi-dry clothing, and gathered strength, and I think mostly gathered motivation to be able to finish. And then we gathered everybody up, and we started out, and mostly I walked out with Christina and the baby, wanting to make sure they had good footing, because that was the worst part of the trail. From the next mile back, all of it was pretty bad. So I made it out with Lacey and Amy and Christina and the baby. We were first out, and when we got to where the yurts were, lo and behold, there was not just one four-wheeler we left there. There were 3 four-wheelers there and 2 really good-looking park rangers. It was awesome. We loved it. And they had wagons on their four-wheelers, and so hugs all around, and put Christina and the baby in the back of the four-wheeler trailer, and I got on the back of the four-wheeler with my dog.
Their baby, yeah,
And my dog, and we got out, and we were actually the first ones out. Met Eliana back in the
And
parking lot.
I remember I was listening for that ATV. I was just waiting to hear that because Charlie ran in to go get soup or some hot drinks and food back towards Walmart, you know, thinking, okay, I'll go to Walmart. I'd been there pretty much all day. I only ran home one time, shower, and dry the rest of his clothes, Warren's clothes, that he might want to change into again since I brought in clothes that ended up wet. So rushed back out there. Charlie was there, and then she headed out. It was a little while after she headed out and stuff, and I'm just sitting in the truck, you know, and roll the window down. No, I don't hear anything. And then when I heard the sound of that puppy, I got out of my truck, and it's like, I saw you and your doggy, and I had no idea Christina was in there with
She's
Brooklyn.
covered with mud.
I was like, oh my God, I'm getting ready to pull out the backpacks and the gear, and then I see movement. I'm like, and I look, and there's a mud-covered Christina and Brooklyn laying on her chest and swallowing mud. Not even just this mud. It's like, oh my God, come here. So that was such a joy to see them. That was like awesome.
So we got her out of the trailer, and I had an obligation. I had to get back to get my dog from Clark's son Dylan, who had to go. The next day was the first day of school, and he had to go to a different place, and so I had to go get my dog so he could do that. So I handed Christina over to Eliana and said, put her in your car.
Oh yeah, but she went and walked in and washed off, and then I go, sit in my truck, you know, it's hot, you know, turn it up, turn the heat up, and yeah.
And that's where my part ended.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I think Amy and Lacey, I think you walked out next.
I couldn't believe that. Yeah, we drove past them, and I said, aren't you
Yeah.
getting on the ATV? They're, no, we're gonna finish this hike. I'm like, I saw her feet.
Opened my
Not
tailgate,
good.
grabbed the clothes, you know, my blankets. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. It was wonderful to see you guys. So when I heard the voice, because I was walking back, like they said, with Matt and his wife, and we're walking back, and I'm a little behind them, you know, and stuff, and I hear him talking to people, and I hear someone say, well, yeah, we're here to find our friends, or, you know, rescue our friends. I perked up. I was like, that would be, you know, and then I saw Jules. I'm like,
And I didn't even know you guys had been there until after I got home and I was reading the paper.
And I didn't know she
and
was
you
gonna
guys had
make
walked
it.
that entire way.
We did.
Frederica did it twice to the Virgin. The first time
That's
by
amazing.
herself.
You know,
Yeah,
I
we
was
met-
so happy to see us.
Yeah.
She just kept saying that, I'm so happy to see you, I'm so happy to see you.
And I was so happy to see you guys, because I didn't know you could make it, because initially you couldn't make it.
Right.
So I left
Then
my
I
house
thought about it.
thinking she can't make it, okay. And that's when I was like, I don't want to hike alone. And I thought, okay, and so okay, Serena's going, and he said Clark was going to be there. Good, I'm on my way.
I'll pick up there, because you talked about not being alone. So we hiked in with them. We were going to go to Crow Pass, but we went to Monarch Mine. And I had some qualms for you guys. As much as I wanted you guys to do this, because I've done Crow Pass too. And it was a big deal for me to accomplish it and finish it. So I knew you guys had been planning for this and meeting, and it was a big deal. But when I left there, I was pretty concerned,
Yeah.
especially when I kept hearing the rain for 2 nights in a row, and I kept seeing the baby's little wet head. I couldn't get it out of my mind. But anyhow, just so I don't lose my train of thought, there were 3 things that just kept coming to me. And each time I hear different tidbits of this story, new emotions come up. It was very emotional for me. But compassion, being judgmental, and then being graceful. When I got the call from Julie, I was totally taken aback in the morning. I had not slept much because it had really rained. Very similar weather for when I had done the pass, except the second day we had had better weather than you guys. My initial reaction was, oh my gosh, compassion. Those poor guys, they're soaked, they're wet. As a mom, I know you want to take care of your baby. I was just flooded with, oh my goodness, and then it went straight, because of fear, to judgment. Oh my goodness, they didn't have everything they needed. And it really hurts me that I went to that, but it's honest. I just went to
Right.
instantly They are not ready. Oh my goodness. And I told Julie, well, I blabbered too much to my husband. There's no way he's going in. I'm not going in there myself because I pretty much told him they weren't ready. That baby's head was wet before we ever took off. And I told her, there's no way. He's not going to go because I just blabbered, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, I got off the phone and I tell him what the call was. He's like, well, of course we're going to help them. Are you kidding? Get some clothes. And so I call her back. Anyhow, I had clothes all over the entire house. I had long socks, I had baby clothes, hats, everything. We started stuffing and we made some contact with you and Frederica and got on the road. And then just the hike in, meeting up with Frederica and with you, and that just the common bond of being there for friends. And I was so taken with my husband's grace towards the whole situation. I guess I should be surprised, but I was.
He was really good.
But and then to not be able to go further, and I really listened to the Matt guy, and he said, your friends, they were watching us cross, and it's washed out, and blah, blah, blah. The helpfulness, the helplessness came in, and then I instantly went back to judgment, and then it's just, and then just praying. I mean, first it was praying on my knees that you guys would come out safely, be able to save face, and finish it on your own. I wanted you to walk out because I had that common desire when I did it, to finish it all the way. This is something I was assertive about and I wanted to do, and I was making it happen and planned it, and I knew you guys wanted to too. So that common bond of wanting to finish something, doing something, and then just helping each other. But when I started hearing word that you guys were fine and coming out, it was just, I was very, very thankful.
It's a relief.
Yeah.
It was a joy.
But I mean,
it's everybody
just such an experience, and just it takes the whole village to complete crafts or anything.
I have to say, you're right. It is a good experience to have everybody come together, and I was worried about that when I started out in the morning, because who else gets up at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday? Not a lot of people are willing to answer their phone at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday. But I was on the road, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have more people respond. By the time I was out of range is when people were responding. So I was really happy when I got out and I saw the number of people that responded. It was very heartwarming. And they were able to, you guys were able to go when I had to leave. And it was great.
It was hard to turn around though.
It was.
And to drive home.
Yeah.
And
Because you felt like you needed to stay there. And I felt like I needed to get to him, but I couldn't. We couldn't find the trail. It was all washed out at the perch. And we took off.
they
went a
told
few
Steve
times.
on the thing, turn around.
They did.
And Matt was like, and we should have probably gone when you guys did. Who knows? I mean,
Right.
there is no right, there is no wrong. I mean, I talk about judgment. Thanks for pointing out. I mean, the next weekend I rode bird to gird on my bike without a bike helmet. How unintelligent.
My gosh.
I mean, none of us can judge, but I'm just being honest that I worked through all of those things. And a lot of that's because of fear, not knowing.
Because
Are
of
they
Yeah.
gonna be
natural
okay?
reaction.
Apparent,
Yeah.
yeah, natural.
I mean, and we have that common bond of all loving the outdoors and hiking and doing these things, and it pulls you together, but it also just, you want it so bad, everything to be okay.
And not knowing, not having the ability to know, because
Oh, communication.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
dead
it's
zone.
not knowing, yeah. Or else messages started coming in later, like at one point in the trail when we were headed back, Matt started receiving some messages, but I think they were so delayed. You know, so we really didn't know where you guys were at. When we reached the nature center, they pulled us back, they were getting our information, our names. You know, it was Matt, his wife, and myself, and they're trying to figure out where, or if you guys had crossed, if you were going back to Girdwood. I mean, it was crazy. It was just like, it was not good.
Yeah. I'm just glad everything worked out, you know, and
It did.
you know, it was difficult because you guys were at about a 1 mile an hour pace.
They were very
Max.
concerned with that. And speaking to Matt, who apparently is a volunteer rescuer, just 2 weeks earlier he had rescued somebody, and apparently his friend of yours or something, but
James.
he was telling me about that. He was telling us about that, and in his words, coming from an experience, he goes at the ladder, he goes, and he looked at me, he goes, one miscalculation, this is coming from someone experienced, I was like, oh, good Lord.
But talk about grace. So
Yeah.
his wife, they stayed at the Eagle River Center for quite a while.
They sure did.
And he showed me on the phone, and the more knowledge I got, the better I felt. He showed me exactly where James had been rescued, and he was showing me his little tracking of you guys' progress.
Right.
But they'd just done Crow Pass. His wife was freezing, and she finally said, I gotta go.
Yeah.
But they were